They couldn't stop laughing at the way he walked, the sound of his boots echoing down the hallway. But when he stepped onto the stage that day, every single one of them went silent. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional stories. From which country are you watching my video, as I can see where my video is being watched? No one really paid attention when Mark Walters first entered Westbrook High School as a senior transfer student. He wasn't loud, he didn't play sports, and he certainly didn't dress like the others. On his first day, while others wore branded sneakers and designer jeans, Mark walked through the front doors wearing old, worn-out military boots and a backpack that looked like it had seen war. Because it had. Mark was different. He was 21 years old, older than everyone in his class. He had recently returned from serving 3 years overseas in the Army and had come back home to finish what he'd started, his high school diploma. Most people didn't know that Mark had dropped out when he was 17 to help his family, then enlisted, and only now was he getting a chance to graduate. But teenagers can be cruel. The first week, whispers followed him down the hallways. Some of the boys laughed about his boots, mocking the way they thudded on the tile floor. Girls snickered behind their phones. "Who wears combat boots to school?" one girl asked her friend. "He looks like a retired action figure," another said. Mark heard it all. He just didn't respond. He'd heard worse in war zones. One of the worst offenders was Tyler, the quarterback and most popular guy in school. Tyler had everything: looks, charm, money, and a crowd of friends who followed him like shadows. To him, Mark was a mystery he didn't care to understand. He saw the boots and the quiet attitude as weird. One afternoon in the cafeteria, Tyler walked by Mark's table, looked down at his boots, and laughed loudly. "Hey man, you lose your tank outside or something?" The whole table burst into laughter. Mark simply looked up and replied, "No, but I lost some good friends wearing these." That shut them up, for a second. But the teasing didn't stop. They called him Boots and joked that he probably saluted his teachers. Mark never responded in anger. Instead, he showed up every day on time, completed every assignment, sat quietly in the front row, and helped clean the classroom after school. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to finish school. His English teacher, Ms. Carter, was one of the few who understood. She had taught at Westbrook for 25 years and knew trauma when she saw it. She could tell Mark had seen things the others couldn't imagine. One day after class, she stopped him. "You're doing well, Mark. Don't let the noise get to you." He smiled faintly. "I've been through worse noise, ma'am. I'll be all right." Still, it wasn't easy. The school had its cliques, and Mark didn't belong to any of them. He ate alone, walked alone, and spent his free time in the library, reading history books. The librarian, Mr. Jenkins, started leaving military biographies on the table near his seat. Without saying much, he showed quiet respect. Things began to shift one day during a school assembly. The principal was giving a speech about leadership and responsibility, but the audience was barely listening until the fire alarm suddenly went off. It wasn't a drill. Smoke began creeping into the auditorium from a small electrical fire. Backstage, students panicked, scrambling over seats, pushing each other to get to the exits. Chaos filled the room, but in the middle of the panic, Mark stood up and took control. In a loud, calm voice that echoed across the hall, he shouted, "Everyone stay calm! Line up by the aisles! Move fast but don't push! We're going to exit in rows now!" Something in his voice made people listen. He moved toward the smoke. Without hesitation, helped the teachers guide students out, and even carried a girl who had twisted her ankle down the steps. When the fire department arrived, they found most of the students already outside, safe and calm, thanks to one man, Mark. The next day, the tone in the school shifted. Whispers turned to questions. "Did you see what Mark did?" "That guy saved half the class." Tyler didn't laugh that day. He kept his head down, not knowing what to say. But Mark didn't expect praise. He came to school the next morning like always, in those same old military boots, head held high. He walked, Quietly through the hallway as students moved aside, no longer mocking, now watching. No one laughed. Some nodded. A few even said, "Hey, Mark," with respect in their voices. Months passed. Graduation day arrived. The auditorium was filled with families, cameras, and caps ready to be tossed in the air. One by one, students walked across the stage, smiling, for photos, shaking hands with teachers. Then the principal spoke into the mic. "Before we continue, we'd like to honor a student whose journey here has been different. Someone who reminds us what it means to fight for opportunity, to never give up, and to walk with honor. Please welcome to the stage, Mark Walters." "Tabayuam," crowd clapped politely at first, unsure what was happening. Then Mark stood up. Everyone turned to look. The auditorium fell quiet as he walked down the aisle, the sound of his heavy boots echoing again. But this time, no one laughed. Each step was filled with purpose. Each medal on his chest glinted under the lights. His posture was perfect, his eyes forward and his presence commanding. By the time he reached the stage, the polite claps had turned into a standing ovation. Even the teachers wiped tears from their eyes. Ms. Carter stood near the podium, smiling with pride. Mr. Jenkins clapped so hard his glasses nearly fell off, and in the crowd Tyler sat quietly, unable to look away. He wasn't smiling, but the smirk was gone, replaced by something he didn't expect: shame and respect. Mark shook the principal's hand and received his diploma. Then he turned to the microphone. He didn't plan to speak, but the crowd was silent, waiting. So he said just one sentence. "I wore these boots in war, but today I walk in peace, thanks to second chances and the hope that no one is ever too late to stand tall." The crowd erupted. Cheers, whistles, even some tears. Mark didn't wave or bow. He just nodded once and stepped off the stage, his boots making one final echo that would never be forgotten. Outside, the sky was golden with the sunset. Students rushed to take selfies, throw their caps, hug their friends. Mark stood with his mother, a woman with tired eyes and a proud smile. She touched his face gently. "Your father would be so proud," she said. Mark looked around. This school, these people, this moment. It had been a battlefield in its own way. But he had made it through. He hadn't just earned a diploma. He had earned something deeper: respect. And back inside the auditorium, someone had written in big letters on the chalkboard backstage, "Real heroes don't need capes. Sometimes they wear boots."